The Winter City Council on Tuesday, February 5th. Can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Councilmember Anderson,
Here.
Cowan,
Here.
Lauren, here, New,
Here.
Mayor Biazzi.
Here. Thank you. You all rise. Valerie Whitworth, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda next.
Mayor and Council, there are no changes to the agenda.
Okay. Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Passes unanimously. Up next, we have council and staff comments. Councilmember Loren.
Right, just a few things. On January 17th and 18th, I attended the League of California Cities Policy Committee meetings in Sacramento, which included a women's caucus meeting, the Sacramento Valley Regional meeting, and also a rural working group planning session. On January 19th, I attended Toast of the Town of Winners and enjoyed celebrating and especially celebrating the accomplishments of Winners residents. On January 24th, I attended and served soup for Supervisor Saylor's Soups On, which is really hard to say. We raised money for Butte Creek Council and we had a really good time. Wade's very special clam chowder was featured and sold out. First thing to sell out or get served. On February 4th, I met with City Manager John Donlevy to review tonight's agenda. I also had a meeting with the Hispanic Advisory Committee. We did the paperwork today to donate $2,000 to Butte Creek Council Summer Intern Program to target supporting Winners students. And we also met to address quite a large agenda, which included this item. It's Yolo County Strategic Plan. They're looking for a public input, and we're going to provide these in Spanish at perhaps City Hall, but definitely at El Pueblo, so people can fill them out and leave them there at El Pueblo to be picked up. And that's all. Thank you.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes, Mayor. Excuse me. I attended the Coast of Winter celebration. Community Center. Very nice event.
Thank you. Councilmember New.
On January 17th, I attended SAGE, the Sacramento Area Council Government meeting. We discussed, among other things, greenhouse gas projections and what we have to do to meet those goals, and also California housing and what things we can do to contribute to providing more housing. On the 19th of January, I also attended the Toast of the Town, great evening there. On the 22nd, I met with John Dunleavy and we talked about zoning and greenhouse gases and other things about what's going on in town and what we can do, what our part would be. That evening, Soup's on dinner, I was there. I didn't serve any soup, but I ate a lot. And on the 23rd, Yolo County Housing, where we discussed housing issues, mostly maintenance, things that are going on with what has had to be, what has been repaired, what needed repaired, and why, and the budget to do all that. On the 24th of January, that's when it's super. On the 28th of January, Yolo Habitat, where we worked on funding and also how we will work at finding a new head for the Yolo Habitat and a new CEO. our present CEO, Petrea, is retiring. Well, she's not retiring. She's going on back to do her own private business. On the 29th, I met with John Dunleavy for general plan review. And on the 29th, John Dunleavy and James Corliss, who is the CEO of SACOG, we had a meeting for about an hour. And how can SACOG help winners was the basic subject. And then this morning I met with John to go over tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Kellen.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. On the 19th, I also attended the year-end review dinner, and Kathy and I were honored to present this year's Citizen of the Year at Glenda Clay. And then also on the 23rd, I attended the strategic planning meeting. And pleased we had ours. One thing I can say for the county, they were supposed to have one in Winners today, and I showed up, and nobody else did. So shame on you, Tom Taylor. On the 24th, I attended a DRC meeting for a first look at the Ovanian homes, which will be part of the Stone Square development. Also on the 24th, I did make, as Jesse mentioned, 10 gallons of clam chowder. It was served up at Supervisor Saylor's Soup's On. So it was a good event for a good cause. And on the 29th, I attended the EDAC committee meeting. And then where we kind of put the final touches on the final report. John's getting ready to get out to everybody. And then yesterday I met with the city manager to review tonight's meeting.
Thank you. I also attended the Toast to Winners on the 19th of January, and I had the honor of presenting the Theodore Winners Award to Alderman and Ilya Arces. And that was just the whole event. I thought the chamber did a really good job putting that together and honoring all the people in town who do so much for the city. The 21st of January, I met with the city manager to go over various issues of what's going on in the city. On the 22nd, I attended the planning commission meeting. On the 24th, I also sent in comments to the design review committee on the homes that are being proposed, 100 homes. On the 24th, I also went to the Soup's On dinner put on by Supervisor Saylor. It was a very good event. I believe they raised about, what, do you think, 44,000, which is going to a locally based charity group, the Pier Creek Council here in town. So it was a very, very good event. 29th, I attended the Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting. The 4th, I met with the city manager, and today I also stopped by down at the county library. They had this the Yolo County Strategic Plan, and so what they had a table out there. They had a table when I went by, and they had a representative from the county there, Jesse Hoskins, and he had the surveys available there in English and Spanish. But you can also do these online, and I'm hoping maybe our local paper can do a little article and put some information in there and help spread the word about it. We're trying to have you prioritize what are the top priorities for the county that are coming up in the next 3 to 5 years. So hopefully we'll get everybody that can fill out a survey and let them know what you think. So thank you to all the council members for all your diligence and hard work on your committee assignments. So up next, we will have public comments. So this is the time we take for hearing from people in the public on any items that are not on tonight's regular agenda. I have 3 forms that were turned in. I'll call those people up one by one to state your name and your address, please, and let us know what it is. Since it's a non-agendized item, we can't really comment or discuss on it tonight, but we would love to hear your comments. So if there's anyone else out there who would like to speak and hasn't turned in one of these papers, we have them available in the back. The first one I have is Bruno Hitton, 623 Snapdragon Street.
So my name is Bruno Pitton. I live at 623 Snapdragon over in the Ivy Loop neighborhood over there. And I'd like to talk about the flood that happened on January 16th. And so I'm under the impression, and from what I've heard, is that the detention pond north of our neighborhood overflowed, and it happened on Wednesday evening. And there was a lot of property damage that happened because of that, including houses that flooded, and we had a car that was totaled in the incident. And so some might say that I'm starting rumors, but what I heard was that the city was called and had gone out and looked at the pond on Wednesday morning when it was full. And this was, we had a break in the storm at that point. And then it wasn't actually drained at that time either because the pumps weren't working. And what I've heard too is that there was an electricity issue, that they didn't have power to them. And so I'm not sure why a generator wasn't rented, or nothing else occurred to get that pond drained. And so as a backup, the pond drains into our neighborhood, and I assume it's supposed to enter the storm drains and then exit through the outlet into the creek. And so once that happened, our storm drains were overwhelmed, and we had 24 inches of water in our street. So I think there's a lot of things that could have happened better to prevent this property damage from happening. And it seems like the city knew about this because someone went out and saw that the pond was full. So once they realized that they weren't going to be able to drain the pond, why didn't they alert residents and go and tell or help put sandbags at these houses that were going to potentially flood? I mean, that would have prevented a lot of property damage, especially since we don't live in a floodplain. We're not obligated to buy flood insurance. I mean, that could be financial ruin for people, right? We were lucky in that we just had a car that was totaled and we have insurance to cover it. So yeah, there's a lot of, we were never informed. So we actually found out because someone came and was ringing our doorbell at 9:25 incessantly. And at that point, it was too late to actually do anything about it. So a city truck drove by our house at 8:18 because I have cameras out. And so the city knew about this, but they didn't send anyone around to alert people to move their cars to higher ground or anything. A fire truck drove by at 8:44, and I think one of the things they could have done was either ring the siren or make an announcement on the PA to let people know. And then also, where were the police in this situation? This is what they're supposed to do, is go and alert residents in times of need, right? When there's a potential disaster. The first communication we had with any emergency services was a fireman who came by at 10:42, and he didn't know what was going on. What he said is, it rained a lot and the drains are clogged. And so there was no information provided to us. So things that could happen in the future, I think to make this go better is the city should get a plan together, an emergency plan, and personnel should be trained on it so this doesn't happen again. Yeah, and the other thing is, we haven't seen any information about this yet. I mean, it's barely been reported in the paper. And so I don't know if the city knows what all went wrong or is still investigating that, but I think this is something that we really need to look into and get the information out to the homeowners. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Bethany Gale, 623 Snapdragon.
We went together. Well, thank you. I'm Bethany Gale, and I live at 623 Snapdragon. So I'm going to speak on a similar thing, but my request is that potentially this become an agenda item for a March city council meeting. I have been in correspondence with the city and city manager, and I have been unsuccessful thus far in my request for transparency and communication regarding what events led to the flooding in our neighborhood, but even more importantly, what plan is in place to prevent this from happening again. I asked for an open forum or like a single point of communication so everyone interested can get the same information. And so far that hasn't happened. I know this isn't logical, but with the last rain we had, I kept going to the front door and opening the front door to see if our street was flooded, because as of now, I don't have anything in place to tell me that this won't happen again. And I guess I'm counting on you, the city council, and our city management to do everything reasonably possible to protect our property. And I'm sadly a bit disappointed in the lack of communication post this event. Even during the event, there was poor communication, which has already been stated. I called the emergency on-call number, and all I was told was that the fire department had been dispatched. That's not a lot of information to go on when the street looks like a river. And so I called my parents, actually. I wasn't sure if the whole town was flooded. I did not know what was going on. And my dad drove around and said, no, it's just your neighborhood. That's how I got my information, which is not comforting. And so now trying to figure out how forward, I need you guys' help to make sure we get this resolved. So, and we have footage from a security camera if anybody's interested in doing that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next one I have is Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan, number 21. And I'm also here with public comment about water, but it's water where we're happy for it to be. This is the first time that I'm here being enthusiastic about the swimming pool in 2019, but I was delighted to hear from Tracy that the pool will be opening for lap swim on March 1st. And so I've alerted the over 30 people that we have on the lap swim list, and so there's a lot of enthusiasm for it. And if people are interested in hearing what's happening at the pool, they can, of course, call Tracy or Carla at City Hall or check the pool's Facebook page, which is updated with information. And it's on Facebook, you can go to @winterspool or search for Bobby Greenwood Community Swim Center. So thanks a lot. I just really appreciate what Tracy and Carla and the staff are doing to have that open. It's a tremendous resource, and we're all going to be so happy to be able to swim here rather than drive to Vacaville and stay back. So thank you so much. It's going to start March 1st.
Thank you, Kate. Is there anybody else that would like to speak during the public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. John, is there anything you can shed any light? I mean, we feel your frustration, the residents that got flooded out there. And I know the investigation is ongoing as to exactly what the facts are and what happened. We hope to have information for you soon. John, can you?
We've been working, our 100% focus thus far has been on trying to work with some of the people that incurred damage. And we've tried to give as good of outreach to every one as we can. And that's our focus right now. As far as causes and future items, as that information develops, we absolutely will be in contact with the property owners, and I will assure you that. We will absolutely be in contact as we're able to line everything up.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on next to the consent calendar.
Mayor and Council, just a couple of items tonight. Item A are the minutes from both the City Council meeting and the successor agency, the Community Development Agency from January 15th. Item B is the final acceptance for the Well 2 Rehab Project. This is an extension of an existing contract, but as far as this project, it was a separate contract. We do have to file a notice of acceptance on the project for any subcontractors that may have worked on the project, so that's what we're doing tonight. And then finally, item C, this is a resolution approving, it's really an amendment to the current agreement that we have with the Yolo Habitat Conservancy regarding the HCP and everything. This is kind of the city attorney, county council, dot the i's and cross the t's on some rather not good, very important provisions of the HCP agreement. So that's the consent calendar.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion from the council?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Next, we have the promotional swearing in of Sergeant Jose Hermosillo. Chief Miller.
Well, we get to talk about you. Get stand in front of everybody. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, City Manager, members of the public. It's my pleasure to introduce for you tonight for a ceremonial swearing in as Sergeant Jose Hermosillo. Sergeant Hermosillo was born in Guadalajara, Mexico in 1982 and then immigrated with his family to the United States when he was 5 years old, settling in Dixon, California. His parents worked in the agricultural business and often traveled between Mexico and California, and Sergeant Hermosillo and his siblings would occasionally work the family farm with his father. Sergeant Hermosillo attended both school in both Dixon and in Mexico, and his family would stay there for extended periods of time. After high school, Sergeant Hermosillo attended Solano Community College and obtained a certificate in auto body and repair. He worked for a short period of time in that field and then enrolled in the police academy in 2007. Sergeant Hermosillo continued his education and earned an Associate of Arts degree in criminal justice. Upon graduating from the police academy, Sergeant Hermosillo was hired by the Colusa County Sheriff's Department as a reserve deputy sheriff, where he worked in detention and transportation. He was then hired by the Williams Police Department as a level 1 reserve police officer and worked in that capacity for 4 years, prior to being hired as a full-time police officer with the City of Winters Police Department in January of 2014. During his time with the Winters Police Department, Sergeant Hermosillo has served as a field training officer and department's reserve officer coordinator. Sergeant Hermosillo has been recognized twice by the Mothers Against Drunk Driving, MAD, for his efforts in DUI enforcement, and he truly has been an ambassador to our Hispanic community and a positive role model to our younger officers. For all of his efforts, he has twice been recognized by his peers as our Officer of the Year. After a very demanding testing process in which all 3 of our internal candidates did just an excellent job in different fields and of the testing, it was my pleasure to promote Jose to the rank of sergeant effective January 14th of 2019. The rank of police sergeant probably is the most vital role in any police department, and it is a critical point in a police officer's career. The sergeant serves as the first level of supervision, ensuring officers comply with law and policy. This not only guarantees officers are doing their job correctly and to the best of their abilities, but serves to mitigate liability, and in law enforcement, liability rolls uphill. So taking on the role of sergeant is also assuming substantial responsibility. However, because of the size of the Winters Police Department, the position is also that of a working sergeant, handling calls for service, enforcing traffic laws, and engaging our community among a myriad of other daily duties of a police officer. Additionally, the role of sergeant within the Winters Police Department comes with administrative duties, and Sergeant Hermosillo will not only continue to serve as the reserve coordinator, but has also been assigned as the Force Options Supervisor, a new position designed to oversee our range and defense tactics training. In addition, he's been assigned to managing our department-issued equipment and consumable supplies that are used by patrol, and he will ensure the ongoing maintenance needs of our vehicle fleet, radio, and radar units. I have the utmost confidence Sergeant Hermosillo will excel in his new role, and he'll be a central element helping guide the Winters Police Department far into the future. And with that, it is my pleasure to invite Sergeant Hermosillo's father, Donato Hermosillo, forward with us so that oath of office can be administered by the city clerk, and Sergeant Hermosillo be pinned by his father with his new badge that bears the rank of sergeant.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. I state your name.
I, Jose Hermosillo,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of police sergeant
the duties of police sergeant
in and for the City of Winters,
in and for the City of Winters,
State of California,
State of California,
according to law, so help me God.
according to law, so help me God.
Thank
I'm not much of a talker. Some of you guys know me. I'm usually pretty quiet. I do smile a lot. Something that you guys probably didn't know, I've applied for the City of Winters Police Department about 4 times. I'm sure Gail remembers that. It seems like I just started yesterday. I started my career in 2007, and this is one of the first places that I applied for. I met with Sergeant Rivers a long time ago. I did many ride-alongs, and unfortunately at that time, the position froze, and I was lucky to get hired with Coos County. I kept in touch with Sergeant Ramirez, and he's the one that told me to come back and reapply, and here I am today. As a police officer, I think I've done a pretty good job to help everybody I can and do the best that I can. And as a sergeant, I will continue to do the same for everybody.
With that, we have cupcakes. I want to try cupcakes. Hopefully, to grab some cupcakes with us.
We will take a 10-minute break and have cupcakes, and we will reconvene.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Very proud.
I'm sorry, it's gonna yeah, so.
We wait for all of you.
Around.
Good, yourself?
Yeah. She needs a lot.
Hanging in there. Hi, Michael. Yeah?
Keeps me.
Go ahead.
I can move.
All right.
You're not grabbing cupcakes.
I'm recording the company. I need one.
One thing, my brother is 60 years old.
It'll be warm going next year.
Sorry, is it be okay? This is the one. So, I have the picture of Jerry and I at Wade's.
Probably hot chocolate with still.
He's 60 also. Yeah, I'm 62. You're 60. But he had his product.
Okay, they didn't sign anything.
I call it the Rotary product.
Yeah.
Like size. And I'll see it. So, they did the TPA for 4 hours. A lot of prayers, a lot of anxiety, a lot of, you know, he's 60 years old, and he's a PhD, so he's still, wow. I know, I'm just glad that the ambulance went to a school And his boys go to the school too. They took him to the hospital. And the poor boys, the two boys, they didn't know what was going on with dad. Oh, your dad went by the ambulance. So, yeah. you know, So we had to
the biggest pot they got.
It's Claret.
I don't have one now.
No, it's just a red.
My dad's number 9.
What happened on Monday?
They lived in Murphy, and they slept in the living room because we had 2 bedrooms. So the poor girls were in 2 beds and mom and dad were in here. So dad was still in bed. What the hell's going on? We knew he was having a heart attack. Mom said this to school. And I'm walking down Highway 4, we're walking down Highway 4 to go to school, and I'm with my little sister. She's in 1st grade, I'm in 3rd. And there was the
What I'd like to see where it's at. Where the is where home Parkway.
Had to come from 25 miles away. You know how to eat a cupcake?
It's like going to
Take the frosting off. No, you take the frosting off, top off, and put it over the mixer. Frosting's in the middle. Yeah. Get around without your cake.
Well, I shouldn't be because today's really.
So it's good to see you. Be careful. Yeah.
No, it's not. It's like, yo. Yeah. Did you see the movie Boys in the Hood?
No.
That was filmed right.
All
Alright, well, I'm gonna.
So are you here
For Jose's.
Yeah.
We.
How you doing, sir? Alright. Is all right?
Yeah.
I gotta get in. Final.
So he went, yeah.
You can do that?
We didn't even move the car, we just left it over there. We're like,
Sure, you put the heads on? Oh, yeah. He's probably, yeah.
yeah.
You don't need to be there. Yeah, I guess not.
So,
As long as it works, I mean, I'm okay with that.
they sitting here, I was here, I don't know if you saw me cut her, that's his. They're all very good.
How's Erin doing?
He had some good days, bad days. He started again with his, I don't know if you know.
No,
he has a Valley fever. Valley fever.
No.
Yeah, so. How does it keep you know, he started, that day of the playoffs for the concussion.
Yeah. Okay, good.
You're about to learn some sugar. It's your responsibility to take the rest of the
They gave him medication.
Yeah.
And so,
Don't take
I don't feel better, but he just started.
Couldn't get it to display. And so she was gonna try and change it into.
So he was going to.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of, he hasn't some anything yet. we just kind of took advantage to see that. And
So,
they started.
No, a lot of people thought.
absolutely.
Kind of put them in the position to-
Yeah, perfect. You know, it was like, it was
Just interested in public
And you can put on your resume, public speaker. You can update your bio, or what have you. Like now accepting, speaking opportunities.
Okay.
It's hard to say. Yeah. Get
I seriously.
I he was in the desert about down
The new city street.
Next up, we have discussion item 1, which is a request for matching funds for vehicle purchase. Sorry, moved too fast. We have a presentation, the Before I Die Ball, presented by Liz Romero. Sorry about that.
So good evening. My name is Liz Romero, Community Ambassador for YOLO Hospice. At YOLO Hospice, we believe in the power of advanced care planning because we know firsthand how much suffering can be eased if we talk about our wishes long before we need to exercise them. The Before I Die Wall is a great project to encourage mindfulness around these important wishes. We serve YOLO, Sutter, Solano, Sacramento, and Conecuh counties. This project is a way to have this conversation and allowing people to think about what they want when they cannot verbalize it themselves. YOLO Hospice's role in this project is to provide the materials needed to make the wall, coordinate with the artist to assemble the wall, and get it to the location where the wall will be accessible to the community to participate. This was in collaboration with Winter's Elder Day Council, who has been essential in getting the conversation started about the walls. Winter's Participation Gallery, who is working with Winter's High School Art Club in the creation of the walls. Winter's Healthcare, who has sponsored the artist in creating the wall, and the City of Winters. These walls will be 2 walls, one in English and one in Spanish. The English one will be a 6x8 wall, and the Spanish one will be a 6x10 wall. And we have others here who would like to speak a little bit more about it.
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
You guys here with 2 other art club members. We have little pamphlets for you guys to fill out. This is an example of how the art club, how the Before I Die mural will be. I would like you guys to write out something you'd like to do before you die. So we hope the community of Winters and visitors can express their wishes onto this wall and to have a positive
Hello, I'm Edith Del Toro. I'm one of the art club members. We hope to make, we hope that this, project has a good outcome, that it, brings the community together more, that it brings, all its ethnicities and, both elderly and younger people together to, because I feel like that's a very nice bond that people have in the community. It's nice to think about what you want to do before you have to do it. That way you can have a plan ahead, and that way it helps you know what you want to do and what you wish for. I'm Melissa Gomez. I think this is really cool because
Just take a deep breath.
Thank you.
we do hope to collect your little pamphlets so that we can incorporate it towards the project. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Irene with Winters Healthcare. I just want to read really quick our mission, our vision. Our mission is providing compassionate care as partners with our community to improve lives and inspire health. And our vision is empowering patients to make healthy choices through ease of access and decision involvement, impacting patient-centered outcomes. When I presented this to my leadership team, there was never such a quick reaction to say yes, because this absolutely embodies the conversations that we want to be having with our patients. And we're so excited that we got to be asked to do this. And I'm so excited I've gotten to have interactions with these students, and they are absolutely amazing. Again, another example when Winters High School departments work with the community, just the beautiful work that happens. So again, we're just really excited to be here, to be sponsoring this project and go right on the wall. Because I wrote, I want to get tired of traveling. That's my goal before I die. So, on Friday, we're going to have the unveiling. It's going to be Friday the 8th at 4 p.m. I will go ahead and send out e-bikes to everyone, and it will be there at the corner of Main and Railroad. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I'd just like to thank you all for being participants in this, and we are going to collect your slips so that we can put them on the wall. And also just to let you know that the students had put together a PowerPoint, but they put it on a Google technology that wasn't compatible with what you have up here. So they had to ad-lib tonight, and that was a little more difficult than just getting the PowerPoint. But at some later date, we will bring you that PowerPoint, and you can see the construction of the wall itself. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is a great project. Looking forward to seeing that down there.
Wow, we're looking forward to seeing you down there.
Be there.
When Melissa approached this project in October, in October, I thought, what a wonderful idea for the community. This is unique to this particular community. And it's one of the first times we've been able to incorporate almost everybody in the community, because it is a participatory process. And I promised these young folks not to embarrass them, but I'm sorry. I apologize. We're looking forward to having you guys down there and enter your comments on the wall. I think the city of Davis, Dixon, and Woodland have this project up and running. And I could be wrong with this, but I think the city of Davis has done it for 2 years. It is a wonderful project. When we met with John, yeah, you picked the area, actually John picked the area. It's going to have a lot of foot traffic. So a lot of people are going to see this. And I think it really is a wonderful memorial for this community and how we interact with others. So I look forward to you guys helping us.
So when's it going
It's
up?
Friday. When is it going up?
Friday?
Friday at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Ribbon cutting at 4.
We're gonna be serving beer and wine?
Did you get your permit?
Yeah.
Right downtown at the Judy Tree, correct?
Yeah, and it'll be right on the corner of Main and Railroad.
You're by the palm tree.
Yeah, right in front of the palm trees, and Eric from the city staff is gonna work. I think we're gonna put the posts in, and they're gonna supply the boards, and we'll do this thing. I'll tell you, it was wonderful meeting with both Liz and Wally about this. Yolo Hospice is one of those organizations that universally, anybody who has ever had a family member that has some type of a terminal illness learns to appreciate about Yolo Hospice. And they came in very positive, and I think within 2 seconds we absolutely said yes. And they were very well organized. The persuasion had to be very low. So. Anyway, we looked at that.
Yes, technical question, and probably this, everybody else knows. What happens to the chalk if it's rained on and all that? Do we worry about that at all?
Do you mean the chalk that is when people write on it?
Mhm.
Oh, so it'll just get erased.
Okay.
And that it won't like damage the boards or anything.
Okay, so all right, so you're willing to have it erased and you're gonna come back and do it again?
Yeah.
Fine, that's
Yeah.
all I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Interesting too, the graffiti's done in chalk.
It is, that's what he's been seeing, and so.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sounds like a great project.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you all for your time you spent on this. I'm looking forward to seeing that down there. All the things that people want to do. So thanks again. Okay, now we'll move on to discussion item 1, which is a request for matching funds for vehicle purchase.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, staff's asking the council approve $8,000 in matching funds towards the purchase of a plug-in hybrid. We brought this back to the council because the last time we moved forward on a similar grant, we had a lot of discussion. I want to make sure we're on the same page. So in 2018, we applied for and essentially received from the Yolo Solano Air Quality Management District some air funds to replace the vehicle. In this case, basically we wanted to do the exact same thing we did before. We had a lot of discussion whether we were going to go all electric or hybrid. Staff is basically recommending that we follow the exact same thing we did before. Go with the hybrid. We're going to buy a second Chevy Volt. So far, so good. We like the Volt. We would love to see the ability to get a little more range, but that's okay. Volt works just fine. Probably one of the things that we will do though is coming in next fiscal year, we're going to come in with a remodel of the former police station next door, which will probably include some electrical upgrades. Maybe we can change out the charging. The volts, because we've just been plugging the 110, it takes a little bit of time to fully charge the vehicle. Maybe if we put some 220 out there, it might help some longer. So anyway, bottom line, staff's asking council to approve the $8,000 in matching funds towards the grant.
Okay, any questions, discussion? Public comment on this? Anybody?
We're going to approve staff recommendation.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none? Motion passes unanimously, yeah. It's nice to see some of that grant money coming back our way. We send a lot the other way, so. Put in next time, we'll put in for maybe a Tesla or something.
We
Let's
just
just
match
work
it.
Yeah. In a couple of years, we'll come back with the whole Tesla thing. Once we're Healdsburg, we're there.
There you go.
Hopefully.
All right, we'll move on to discussion item number 2, which is the Animal Services Joint Powers Agency Agreement.
Mayor and Council, tonight staff's asking that the council approve that the city participate with the 4 cities in the county to begin the development of a joint powers agency for animal services within the county. In 2013, LAFCO, through our Shared Services Initiative, started a process towards an overall review and analysis of our animal services. They did a pretty comprehensive review of just shelter services, overall management, and as part of that, they put together an overall governance study regarding animal services. Part of that was the recommendation for a joint powers agency as a means of providing jurisdictions maybe a little bit more say. Currently, we have a contract with the Yolo County Sheriff. We have practically no say in how things go from an overall governance standpoint. But even still, one of the items, one of the attachments to this report shows you where our costs have gone. They go up. They always go up, but in some cases, you'll see that in some years, our costs have more than doubled. And the cost escalation also has resulted, even though our costs have in some cases doubled, our services have gone way down. I will tell you that if there's anything that happens after 5 o'clock, we pay a premium. Right now, the way that our services go, the chief's actually, we've gone out and we've bought a dog kennel for out at the police station, because usually the first ones on scene when we have an issue with an animal is the police department. And this may sound very old school, but most of the time we throw the dog in the back, don't arrest him. But we put the dog in the back and we take the animal over to the police station, and somebody babysits the dog until we get the owner to come and pick them up. In 2016, the county took the lead with coming in with a proposal for the design of a new shelter facility. Probably the number one thing that we recognized is the age and the deficiency of the existing building that was brought out in both of the 2013 studies on things. We also saw the emergence of a very good group here in Yolo County called Unleashing the Possibilities, UTP. They come in and they've committed to raise somewhere between $5 and $8 million towards the new facility. So we have a private sector partner. So we've been working on this. In November of 2018, there was a meeting that was called for all the cities in the county to come together to reconvene and talk about it. And Mayor Pro Tem Cowan and I attended both of those meetings. One on a very smoky night over in Davis. As part of that, there's really a 5-point or 4-point plan that is included in the staff report. Tonight, the council is not approving being a member of the Joint Powers Agency. There's a 4-part process that they're going to go through. First is the establishment of some type of a governance model. And I can tell you that our city attorney's office, as well as county council, have already been working on that. As far back as probably 2010, we were working on a governance model for this because it's been a real issue. The second part of the process is coming up with a strategic strategic plan for the overall services, shared mission, the goals, objectives, and what the agency would actually do. The third is looking at an overall operational model. Right now, all the services are provided through Yolo County Sheriff. We do have medical services that are provided through UC Davis. We have volunteers, and I can't understate how important volunteers are in the overall process. The reason why we've looked at the new facility is that the current facility is not conducive to the volunteers. I've mentioned before, people like animals more than they like people. They do. And the ability to fundraise and bring in private sector money is probably easier for animals than it is for anything else. So looking at an overall operational model that might look at other types of providers, nonprofit, some type of an independent combination of various models that would come in. So that's the third thing, developing how the Joint Powers Agency would actually work and provide the services. And then finally, this would all be wrapped into a process which would include not only the operational model, but it would look at the shelter location, design, the financing of how we would put the whole thing together, an overall budget, and an implementation plan for the JPA. So really tonight is just to kind of get on the bus a little bit on this thing. Councilmember Cowan has been going. I'll be participating for almost the past 9 years. I've been some type of liaison on animal services throughout the county. I've met some wonderful people that are very passionate about what they do. Cat people, dog people, pit bull people, you name it. I've had an opportunity to meet all of them. This is probably the most serious thing. I think the Unleashing Possibilities group has some very influential people that are right-minded. I think we can do it at this time. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions? I'll make a couple comments. Yes. First off, going to these meetings, the second meeting, I mentioned this before after that meeting, everybody's sitting around trying to figure out what to do and what kind of a plan to move forward. It may be the smallest jurisdiction, but it was our city manager that came up with this plan and all the bullet points on what to do. He sat right there and made a little list and goes, okay, I got this figured out, and rattled it all off, and everybody's like, wow, I think that's the way to go. So John gets credit for this as far as I'm concerned.
Not entirely.
I mean, we gotta get through it, but the other thing is, when we talked about this years ago, I think 2013, right? What you mentioned, the first time we went around with this, it literally fell flat on its face. And I think it was mostly because there wasn't the public interest. And now that or the private, I mean, and now that we got those groups in, and I think the important part, and John mentioned this at the meeting, is when we put together a governance for this, we got to make sure we include them, because if they're going to bring a substantial amount of money to the table, they need to be sitting at the table. And I think that's a critical piece, and I think without that commitment from those groups, which they were there and they were very committed, being led by Judge
Dave Rosenberg.
Yeah, Rosenberg. And with his, leading the charge, that's what got all of the other agencies to really jump on board. And the nice thing was everybody was there, even West Sac. So that was a big deal to have everybody show up. So I'm looking forward to this moving forward myself.
Any other comments?
I'm just all in.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it.
Does the public like to comment on it?
Yes. John or Wade, has anyone kicked around how they're gonna transport these pets? Say if somebody from Dutchess County, somewhere, and they don't have transportation, how are they gonna get to one location? They have satellites.
Yeah, that'll be part of the operational model. And probably based on our size and the number of animals we generate, probably not for us. But I will assure you that for some of the key stakeholders, West Sac is an example. The idea of satellite facilities existing are absolutely going to be talked about. The operational model for how animal services provided needs to be turned on its ear. And in order to keep a jurisdiction like West Sac in, having some type of satellite model is really important. The location of the central shelter is critical. For many reasons, we like to make fun of Davis, but I will tell you that the folks in Davis are probably the largest contingent of volunteers that go there. So trying to figure out where the shelter is located. Are there satellite facilities? How will the services be provided? How will our stakeholders, whether it's 4R Rescue or the cat people or the feral cat people, there are so many stakeholders in this whole thing. This is going to be a very aggressive process to try and figure this thing out. But I think we can do it. Yolo County is a pretty special place. For us, I appreciate the comment from Councilmember Kellen, but the reason why I've been on this thing is that the service that we get is unacceptable. And the cost escalation just digs us. We cannot afford to, when all of a sudden the sheriff's office tells us that our costs are doubling, it takes you right out of the pool or new tables for the community center or all the other things that we do. I've been passionate about this because we have, comparatively, we've had so many increases that's just buried us with no control.
Yeah, we get less and less.
Yes, we just keep on rolling it back. I'm glad our police officers like us. It works.
I think this is something that it has been going on for a long time, and to see an actual plan, some structure to a plan to move forward is a very good step. So at this point, I will open up for any more discussion. If not, I'll open up for a motion.
Can I have a question?
Absolutely.
You have to stand, you can hear me.
Yeah. Speak loud. You
You
can see
keep
on the camera as well.
Oh, Lord. You keep saying cost has escalated. I'm not on the budget committee or anything. Could you give me some numbers?
Yeah, probably the best thing I'll do, I'll send you a copy
Okay,
of the table that's in the report.
okay.
You'll see it. And all you have to do is just follow, you go, oh my goodness.
But I think as a citizen of Winters, I think that's a very important information. Being that we don't have any animals and this is part of my property tax that I'm paying for, I'd like to know this information. Thanks, John.
Yeah, there's a table in the staff report that is available online, and John will send you a copy of that. That does it list costs from 99, 2000, all the way up to the 18-19 fiscal year. So gives you a good idea of what winter share is, and that compared to what other cities' share is as well.
I move that the city council approves the city will participate with 4 cities and counties begin development of a joint powers agency and begin the development of a joint governance structure.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Passes unanimously. Yes, just looking forward to seeing this move forward, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Callen and the city manager for the time that you spent on it already. I know it's something that's it's gonna take us a while to put it together, but I think it will be a positive step forward.
Just promise me it won't take as long as the Conservancy did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of the conservancy.
Next up, we have discussion item number 3, which is an information item about the general plan, health and safety element.
Mayor and Council, real quick, this is first part of the 9-point part series that we're going to do to maybe just give a little bit of information regarding our city's general plan. As indicated in the staff report, all cities in California and counties are required to have a general plan. And ours was adopted in 1992. But the one thing that over the months as we talked about this, a general plan is a very dynamic document. And although many of the original policies were generated in 1992, it's a very progressive document that includes a lot of updating. So what we're doing is we're going to take each one of the city's 9 elements, and at one council meeting each month, I'm going to bring those. In our general plan, of the state mandated items, we have our land use policy, our housing element, our health and safety element, transportation and circulation, and our natural resources element. And tonight, I just want to talk a little bit about our safety and noise elements, which fall under, which actually in the state mandate, it's required that you have a safety element, and it's required that you have a noise element. Ours are both wrapped into one element. According to OPR, the goal of the safety element is to reduce the potential shortened long-term risk of death, injuries, property damage, economic and social dislocation resulting from fires, floods, droughts, earthquakes, landslides, climate change, and other hazards. And that's the policy statement from OPR. The city's health and safety element provides both for the safety and noise, as outlined by the state. The main policies, and this is directly out of our general plan policy document, is to prevent loss of life, injury, and property damage due to geologic and seismic hazards, flooding, wildland and structural fires, explosions, release of hazardous materials. The policy also includes that we'll have city emergency response procedures that are adequate for both natural and man-made disasters, that we protect our city residents from harmful effects of excessive noise, and then finally, to prevent crime and promote the protection of people and property. Basically, our public safety department that we have for the city. The one thing that I've tried to, and this is my little show down, the general plan, each element basically explodes into a number of documents, and it points at many different agencies. Our policy in the general plan and in this element says that we're going to put together the capacity to address all these issues. To do that, we have a number of really key documents. First is we have a citywide multi-hazard emergency services plan. Ours was last updated in 2016, and it includes exactly what it says, multi-hazard. natural and man-made disasters that can happen. Everything from earthquake, the flooding, to the dam, if there was an issue with that. But it also for man-made disasters. If there was ever a major chemical spill here in town, it could be addressed. Just recently, in December, the City Council approved the YOLO operational area multi-jurisdictional hazard plan. 738 pages of gold that was presented to the council. That was adopted in 2018, and realized that the multi-hazard plan is a component of the county's operational area. So at the end of the day, the city has our own emergency services plan. The county has a multi-hazard plan, but then there's the multi-jurisdictional multi-hazard plan, which is just a combination of everything that all the cities have in their plans. We also adopt the building, fire, and housing codes. Those cover all of the safety elements for how we allow construction and things to occur within our community. To implement most of our public safety, besides having our own police and fire department, we are a member of some key agencies within Yolo County. The first is the Yolo Emergency Medical Services Agency, YEMSA. We had them in here a couple of months ago as we had them recognize the saving of a life based on a combination of our fire department responding and AMR as our paramedic unit going out there and save the one man's life. As part of YEMSA, we also are represented on what is known as the YOLO Emergency Medical Coordinating Council. That's actually where our fire personnel go and represent us on that board in an overall medical services plan. We're also a member of the YOLO Emergency Communications Agency, which provides 911 service. Very critical. As you look at the implementation of any state mandates as far as 911 service and emergency response, that is all carried out through, it's a horrible acronym, but YECA. We are also a member of the Joint Emergency Management Services for Yolo County, better known as the GEMS. With GEMS, it's very similar to what we just talked about, animal services. We have the 4 cities, we have Yolo County, all cooperating together to not only develop the emergency plans, but also to do all the training. But it also provides that in the event that there's some type of disaster, they become a part of what is very much a linear process. When you look at disasters happening, you hear about the FEMA and the federal government coming in. But no matter how you slice it, it goes from the federal agency to the state agency. In our case, in the state of California, we have the State Office of Emergency Services, or the Governor's Office of Emergency Services. That's broken down into 8 regions. We're a part of one of those regions. So it's federal to the state to our region, and then from our region, it goes to the case of Yolo County's operational area, and then it comes to us. The linear process. And we are a member of not only GEMS, but also the Yolo County operational area. And then finally, one of the key things has to do with overall flooding and flood zones. And for the city of Winters, we have 2 key plans. One is the Moody Slough, And the second is the Food Creek subbasin reports, which address overall flooding and flood control. And in 2016, we updated the noise ordinance, which is very important. I didn't bring any sound effects or anything to talk about that, but we have the noise ordinance. I can tell you that it's conformant with state requirements on that. So for the most part, realize that if you go online, the staff report includes all the links to absolutely everything I've just talked about. So on that slow night, when Netflix is not working, you can just start clicking on these things. Go to each one of the agencies. They're actually very impressive. Many members of the council and also the staff sit on these, and it helps provide just what's said in our general plan, is that we're going to have a health and safety element that implements all these things. Then I'd be happy to answer any questions. I get done in 10 minutes? You said 10 minutes.
How about unrelated questions? I'll wait till after the discussion.
I think that you've also summed it up pretty well. I think for this element of our general plan is in pretty good shape. We've done the updates, like you said, it was originally put in place in '92. We've gone along and done updates as necessary, so I think we're in pretty good shape. I do have one sheet that was turned in by Kate Laddish. I believe she would like to comment on this as well.
Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan, number 21. Can you hear me okay if I leave this in?
Perfect.
Here? All right, great. First of all, thank you so much to staff and council for working to get the grant that will fund the general plan refresh. That's tremendous, and your hard work is much appreciated. And my understanding is that the discussion that we're having now is related to the general plan refresh. And so I had a couple questions with that. I really appreciate the ongoing process with the strategic planning workshops. And I think that's a valuable opportunity for the public and different portions of the city to come together and have discussions with some of the different elements of the strategic plan. I mean, those are fantastic, and I look forward to this starting again. So I'm curious about, just within the larger process of the general plan refresh, what the opportunity will be for the public to come together in a workshop type setting, like we're having with the strategic plan. And so that's a question that I have. That's more general. It's not just the specifically the health and safety and noise aspects. More specifically, though, within the health and safety element of the general plan. Well, let's see. Backing up, since the general plan it's a vision document, and it's much more than a collection of the master plans that we have. And we have a great collection of master plans, but the general plan, of course, is our opportunity as a city to give a vision of ourselves, to articulate our modern, current vision of ourselves and where we plan on going. And so I'm looking forward to hearing about how the general plan refresh will incorporate that opportunity and for us to do this. I really appreciate that the general plan will become more, I think transparent is the word in the staff report. And user-friendly and available online. That's fantastic. And so I'm looking for the and where the vision discussion happens within this. What's our vision that's going to hold all the master plans together? Specifically related to this, with this being a modern document that comes from now, instead of kind of drawing some different, very valuable things together, but from 1992, would be looking to see how we address the reality of climate change within the different elements of it, and certainly within the health and safety aspect. How do we deal with the increasing heat emergencies, which are less dramatic, certainly, than the dam going out or something like that. But how do we look ahead to keep everybody who's here safe as daytime temperatures continue to increase and as we have less nighttime cooling? And actually also as we have, unfortunately, probably increasing problems with air quality due to wildfires, such as we unfortunately saw several times this year. And so those are some of the aspects that I will appreciate there being ongoing discussion about. And again, I'm really grateful for all the work that's gone into this project so far, and I look forward to continuing a robust discussion of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Don, can you address, will there be some chance for public workshop type input?
Absolutely. As we get ready to roll out the refreshing things, one of the most important parts will be overall public interaction on everything. The one thing I'd like to address that Kate brought is that how does current vision and everything come into play with much of this? And the implementation of the city's general plan and the vision is something that is incremental and it's evolutionary. And the best way to describe it is we've been working on the Economic Development Committee's recommendations. It starts eliciting a vision from that downtown master plan, the flood overlay, the idea of a climate action plan. Those things are all, as each one of those master plans and the various documents come out, that is an opportunity that there's a modernization of how the city looks at things. The general plan refresh is only going to look at the existing general plan area. In many cases, you will see where people want to expand the vision, which typically means expanding the footprint of the city, expanding the overall sphere of influence. We want to expand. We need to look for new horizons. The refresh is not going to look at expansion. It's looking at the existing document, making it more transparent, trying to come up with many of the standards that are shown by some of the new requirements for how a general plan is presented by the Office of Planning and Research from the state. Absolutely, the ability to try and increase the transparency and make it a little more user-friendly. One of the things that the state's doing, and probably the biggest document where we're going to see this is the upcoming housing element as we get ready to do that. I'm going to mention that very quickly in my comments, but the state's very much about setting standards. That means not only that there are goals, but things that are absolutely achieved. The climate action plan, I'll tell you that, and I was going to mention this in my comments, but I'll just tell you right now. Carol Sienna and I sat down and we went through the draft climate action plan that we had. It had 171 action items in it. Carol and I have pared those down significantly. We haven't taken anything out, by the way. What we did was we came up with some of the key elements that we thought a city of our size and our capacity could do. And then some of the elements that were like, these are really great ideas, we've kind of moved those into an appendice into that said, hey, here are some things that we can do. But I would expect that within the next couple of months, we will bring a draft of the climate action plan, and absolutely, and people are going to be invited to do that. And I can tell you that Carol is our representative on the resiliency forum for Yolo County that is dealing with exactly what Kate talked about as far as heat. goes. It's a big process. We currently have a focus group that's working on that right now. And then finally, on wildfires, I met with Art Mendoza. We have been working on the community wildfire prevention plan. Exactly what Kate just mentioned about how are we dealing with wildfires. We're actually coming up with an overall plan that actually it doesn't really affect the city that much, but because we basically oversee everything for Winters Fire District, we're looking at an overall wildfire protection plan. We've included our neighbors and partners in Golden Bear and Casitas, and going outside the city's border on coming up with an overall wildfire protection plan that I can tell you eventually it's going to form into what they call a fire safety council, which is, that's a legal term, it's actually a legal organization. So all those things are being worked on right now.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to when we opened our meeting, Pierre spoke about SACOG and greenhouse gases and what they're doing. And I was wondering if the information that he's getting will be able to dovetail into the climate action plan, if that's still developing. I'm not sure how far along those requirements are, but will we be able to reflect those in our climate update? And my other comment is back in, I believe, November, we voted to have a phone software called MyCivic as a way to interface and share information with the public. And I was just wondering, it's not on the agenda. If you don't have your information tonight, you can bring it back later, but I'd like an update on that because I think it does pertain to this conversation.
Just real quick, SACOG is part of the implementation part of things like AB 32, working with the California Air Resources Board, implementing a lot of the smart growth things as it interacts with transportation through SB 375. Matter of fact, when Councilmember New and I met with James Corliss, who's the CEO for SACOG, we talked about the challenges that a small city has. Realized that most of, whether it's AB 32 or SB 375, the problem that we have is we're a small semi-rural city. We don't qualify for anything. The people that were in charge in Sacramento were more geared towards large urban areas. But some of the challenges that we have that actually Councilmember New and I talked about it today is we need to find things that will work for a small city. How, as we implement our general plan moving forward on various things, whether it's our housing element, our circulation element, or how we work with Yolo County Transportation, the idea of looking at things like microtransit. What are some of the thresholds that we need to reach as far as critical mass for certain types of transportation to even work here? How do we reduce our vehicle miles traveled? How do we put together an economic development strategy that's going to create jobs that will keep people here? How do we advance some things, for example, on broadband, getting that capacity here? Because there's so many people that if we had better broadband in town, in some locations, that they would just work from home. We would get them off of the road. So all those things are in the works.
Anything on MyCivic?
Actually, we talked to Stacy, Tracy, and Tracy. They're all working on this. And we just talked, yeah, just timing capacity.
We sat through the webinar and we just need to sit down and design something specific to what the city of Winters wants to do. So that's the stage that we're at.
Great. Comments? Thank you very much for the update on this. Okay, Next up, we have the city manager report.
Just a couple things really quick. Parking. Within the next week, we will be sending letters out to every business in downtown within the parking zone with a map and a letter saying, hey, we are getting ready to start doing parking enforcement. It's a good idea for you to let your employees know where they can park. If you don't have a parking lot for your employees, which is every business in downtown, here are the places which would be where you can park all day without the risk of getting a ticket. So I actually have Dago working on a simplified map. It's going to tell everybody what the parking times and locations are. But so far, we are getting ready to implement everything. We painted City Hall today. They got the stencil that they're going to go out and start spraying the 30-minute stuff on, and we are going to start implementing. So I mentioned Councilmember New, and I met with James Corliss last week with SACOG Week. So we met with the CEO on Tuesday. On Wednesday, Dan McGuire, Dago, and I went to a meeting put on by SACOG for the cities in the county, for Yolo County. The regional housing needs allocation is upon us, and better known as RENA. And time to get the pitchforks and the rope and the fire out, because as soon as Dan and I start bringing out information on RENA, it'll be time to string the city manager up again. But the RENA numbers are very important. We're gonna, Dan and I are gonna work on putting together some information. Everybody's gonna need to get up to speed. The city council, the planning commission, as we get information out to the public. This is a big deal. I have an article that I was going to give for everybody, but if you happen to read the SAC-B, the Governor Newsom is basically talking about how housing production, affordable housing production, is all going to be tied to transportation dollars. And it's going to be very controversial. It's just telling you, RENA is where it comes into. Our housing element expires in 2021. So the expectation is, and we talk about how we refresh the general plan, how we make things more transparent. The number one thing that the state's going to be asking for is they're going to want you to set standards, and they're going to want you to start working towards them. And that means production goals on things. So it's going to be great. Councilmember New gave me a hot tip on something. As our representative on SACOG, we are on one or two subcommittees. Yet he's just chock full of information. When Councilmember New came in, he didn't run, but he brings a lot of stuff in. But I can tell you that just a couple of meetings, he's brought close to $400,000. Last week was like a $400,000 a week. But one of the things that he brought is a program from SACOG, and accolades to Councilmember New using his influence. There's a program called Green Means Go, and it gets to a lot of the smart growth principles on various things. And it's probably the best thing. It's the closest thing to money that could be used the way the redevelopment was. Councilmember New brought it in. Jim Corliss, the CEO, brought it up. I was at a meeting on Thursday with all the Sacramento area city managers. And, the gal from SACOG who oversees the program literally walked up and she stabbed this thing in my hand and she goes, Winters would be perfect for this. And I mean, you're talking probably you know, well over $100,000 that could go towards some things that could act for redevelopment, right? That we haven't seen in a very long time. So I mentioned the climate action plan. Carol and I are gonna work on bringing the draft of that thing to the council within the next couple of months. Food trucks. On Friday, we'll probably see the buck truck parked on the corner.
It was there today.
It was there today. Well, on Friday, I think it might be back there again. So time to go and, yeah.
It's in a much better location now, I think, where I saw it parked there, it seems to be much better for vision, that intersection, that type of thing. You still drive by it's hard to miss that truck there.
Yeah. You know, thanks to really everybody involved. Planning Commission did a great job of reviewing everything. Obviously, the council just adopted the ordinance. We went through the 10. We just did the permit on the thing, and you know, it says Buckhorn on the side, but this is a business venture that was generated and developed by some Buckhorn employees. This is their independent business that they're doing, and they're finding a lot of success. And I give a lot of credit to them. They worked really hard. They were patient, and so anyway, Friday I'm gonna go get it.
Maybe tomorrow.
We'll see. And that's all I have.
Thank you. One last thing I just wanted to mention, I know a message from the chamber, there's a new business that's going to be opening downtown soon. Hoobies Brewing downtown. They're planning to have a ribbon cutting, have a grand opening on the 16th. That weekend, 16, 17, 18 will be their grand opening. So hope everybody can go down there and visit them, say hello, have a beer and some food. So on that note, I will adjourn the meeting at 8:06.
Cold pool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Says end stream.
We will.
You know, I'm glad you're
Still there.